Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the June 14th, 2020 special edition of The Breast There Is, The Breast There Was, and The Breast There Ever Will Be Wrestling Podcast. As always, I am your host, Mikey B, WWE, and this is episode 2 of season 4 of my podcast. Last month, I gave the predictions for the first pay-per-view following WrestleMania of this season of my podcast, which was the event Money in the Bank. There were 7 matches on that card last month on the main card, which is all that I give predictions for. And of one of those 7 matches, there was a change during the broadcast for the competitors in one of the match. The original card had recently returned MVP facing off against R-Truth, and before the match began on the actual broadcast, Bobby Lashley replaced MVP to defeat R-Truth. So because that match was a last minute change during the course of the show, I can't give a prediction. My prediction tally won't involve that match. So I wound up getting of the 6 remaining matches, 3 of the 6 right. So giving me a 50% start to the season. 50% is not bad, but I'm definitely shooting for higher percentages this season on my podcast. So that said, tonight's program is devoted to this evening's WWE pay-per-view show, Backlash. This is a long-standing WWE pay-per-view over the years. This one, however, has an interesting distinction. It's featuring a match, main event, that the company, for whatever reason, has decided to call the greatest wrestling match ever, featuring one Hall of Famer and one surefire Hall of Famer, Edge taking on Randy Orton. I will get into that match, of course, as I go along with my predictions, but definitely unusual to see the company promote a match like that. I can't recall in all the years I've followed this company them ever doing something like that. So anyways, I'll give further analysis about that match when I get to it. On WWE.com right now, and this is a few hours before showtime is set to start, it lists the Backlash match card, and then it says next to the match card brackets to date. So this is something that has repeatedly irked me about this company, is that they don't always have their match card ready, even on the day of, shortly hours before. So there's not much I can do about that. Obviously, just go with what they've provided so far. As always, in my prediction tallies, I will not include any matches which are on the kickoff show, or even if I give a prediction for all these matches right now, if one or two of them happen to take part on the kickoff show, then they will not be included in my prediction tally. And considering that so far on their website they have no matches displayed for the kickoff show, I'm led to believe probably one of these matches will be a part of that kickoff show. But anyways, for now, I have 8 matches to work with and give predictions for, so I will give my predictions for all 8 of these matches. The first match is for the Raw Tag Team Championships, with the champions, the Street Profits, taking on the Viking Raiders. These two teams have engaged over the last several weeks in a number of different non-wrestling activities. I guess just something for the company to try and make interesting. I don't know. I think right now, as I've been saying in the last few months during this global pandemic, I don't think it's been a great idea to carry on with all these storylines and continue wrestling as normal without an audience, because it's really lacking that energy that the performers feed off of. And also, at the end of the day, any wrestling business is furthered by a crowd's reaction to a given performer or storyline angle, things like this. So with the absence of that, it really, I think, hurts the product. But Vince McMahon wants to continue on his product come hell or high water. So anyways, with this first match with the Street Profits taking on the Viking Raiders, there's been a whole lot of not wrestling going on between these teams, so we'll finally get an actual wrestling match for the tag team belts. And I'm led to believe that the Viking Raiders will win their first tag team championships on the top level here in the WWE. So I'm choosing the Viking Raiders to be victorious over the Street Profits and win the Raw Tag Team Championships for that first match. The second match is for the United States Championship, and it's with champion Apollo Crews taking on former champ Andrade. Andrade surely will have Zelina Vega and possibly some others in his corner in order to help him, but I don't like the idea already of the company finally rewarding Apollo Crews with a very prestigious belt like this, and to have them take it away so quickly. Apollo Crews isn't someone that's been given really, I think this is his first title possibly in the company, so I think that'd be pretty cruel to do that. So I'm gonna pick Apollo Crews to retain the United States Championship belt tonight. That said, I think certainly Andrade is going to remain in this title hunt and in this title picture for a while, and the odds of him winning back the United States Championship in the coming months I think is very high, but I don't think that will happen tonight. So I'm sticking with Apollo Crews to retain the United States Championship belt on his first pay-per-view as a champion. So Apollo Crews is my pick there. The third match of the night is for the Women's Tag Team Championships. It is a triple threat match with the champions Bayley and Sasha Banks taking on Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross taking on the Iconics. Bayley and Sasha Banks, of course, were the first ones to hold these women's tag team championships when they were created. And all three of these teams, in fact, have won the women's tag team championships since they have been in existence. Even though, I guess, to sort of go with the same thinking of my last one, which with the last match, that Apollo Crews is a recently crowned champ, so I don't think it's a great idea to remove it so quickly from him. There's a difference here, even though Bayley and Sasha Banks just won the tag team belts on a recent episode of Friday Night SmackDown. The fact is they have been tag team champions before, and as well, Bayley is still the current SmackDown Women's Champion. So I am going to go against the logic and the line of thinking I used in the last match, and I'm going to say that the Iconics, who have recently returned after many months away, I would like to see them win the titles back. They're a very entertaining tag team, and I think that, of course, all these teams are great, and there will be more feuding going on among them in the months to come. But yeah, I gotta think that the Iconics are gonna squeak this one out and win the tag team championships. This one I'm not extremely confident about, I should say, because again, Bayley and Sasha Banks just won these titles, and they're quite a heel tag team right now and a heel duo. And I know I'm starting to hesitate with my pick, but I'm going to stick with it. I'm going with the Iconics to probably get the win, or the pinfall, or at least the decision over, probably not Bayley and Sasha Banks, probably over Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. Likely Nikki Cross being the one who gets pinned down by the Iconics. So that way Bayley and Sasha Banks lose the belts without actually being pinned or submitted to the Iconics. So I'm going with the Iconics to win the Women's Tag Team Championships, setting up for more feuding with these teams in the months to come. The fourth match is a non-title match with featuring Jeff Hardy taking on Sheamus. Both guys, of course, are former champs. They've won lots of different championships. Two solid veteran performers. This storyline has been really messy, though. They made this whole thing about Jeff Hardy talking a lot about his former drug addiction, and and they even did this whole situation which showed Jeff Hardy possibly being under the influence recently and getting in an accident and all this stuff, which, I don't know, feels pretty dirty to me when you're going to drag in a real life a person's struggles into a storyline, especially one as serious as this. So I know they're really trying to get heat for Sheamus and make him look like a real devious bad person, which is fine and everything, but I think that there's better ways to go about doing that. But either way, this is what the company has decided to create it for a storyline. So with that very cringeworthy storyline development for this match, I hope that the company is going to reward Jeff Hardy and give him the victory, possibly putting an end to this little feud between these two guys. But regardless, I think this moment after a cringeworthy storyline deserves a happy feel-good result. So Jeff Hardy is my pick to defeat Sheamus in this match. The fifth match on the card is for the Raw Women's Championship, with champion Asuka taking on Nia Jax. Asuka, of course, was recently crowned the Raw Women's Championship when Becky Lynch had to step down and step away from the company because of her pregnancy and her real life relationship with Seth Rollins. So Becky Lynch stepped away, gave her and handed the belt over to Asuka, who had just won the women's Money in the Bank ladder match last month. So that was part of her prize for winning. That was her automatically claiming the Raw Women's Championship. So because she just recently won it, and because Asuka is without question, hands down, one of the best female performers in the world, and quite honestly, she hasn't been given much of her due as a champion in the top brands so far. They did a lot of great things with her, winning Royal Rumbles and keeping her winning streak alive for a long time, things like that. But as a champion, they took that away from her about a year and a half ago rather quickly to set up the whole WrestleMania triple threat main event with two belts on the line when it was Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey, and Charlotte Flair. So Asuka unceremoniously had the belt taken from her before that by Charlotte Flair on a television episode. So I didn't like that, because Asuka is as good as any of those other women I just mentioned, and she deserves a prolonged run with a top title. So I'm saying Asuka will hold on and retain the Raw Women's Championship over Nia Jax. I can't say if this is a feud that will continue on or not, but Nia Jax is certainly a great presence and should remain in the top women's title pictures for the foreseeable future. So this feud might carry on, and if so, Nia Jax might win the belt from her at some point, but not tonight as far as I'm concerned. I think Asuka will retain the Raw Women's Championship. The sixth match on the card is for the Universal Championship, and it is a handicap match with champion Braun Strowman taking on the team of The Miz and John Morrison. Here's how I believe this match and post-match will shake out. I think Braun Strowman will retain the belt because I think having a tag team share a Universal Championship is muddled, and I think it's just a stupid idea and shouldn't happen. There shouldn't be two people holding one of the top belts ever. They kind of pulled this tactic a few months ago with the Intercontinental Championship when they did Braun Strowman actually, in fact, losing the belt to the team of Sami Zayn, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Cesaro, and Sami Zayn wound up just being the champion even because he got the pinfall in that match. So that was kind of a clumsy way to sort of, I guess, handle that storyline. I didn't like it. I think that's stupid. Don't do that. If you're going to have a tag team in a match, make it for a tag team championship belt, not for a singles belt. So I think what's going to happen is Braun Strowman will win. He will defeat The Miz and John Morrison. But what I imagine will happen is as soon as the result is in place, Asuka a person we haven't heard much from in the last month since he lost clean to Braun Strowman last month was Bray Wyatt. And when he lost to Bray Wyatt, or I'm sorry, when Bray Wyatt lost to Braun Strowman last month, he was not his Fiend character. So I'm hoping we're going to get the return of Bray Wyatt as the Fiend soon, which will then relaunch their feud again for the coming months. So I think Braun Strowman will retain the belt, the Universal Championship, over The Miz and John Morrison, and will soon after the match get attacked by the Fiend Bray Wyatt. That's just my personal prediction, but that's just a side note, of course. My actual prediction for the match is Braun Strowman retaining the Universal Championship belt. Moving on to the second last match now for the WWE Championship. It's champion Drew McIntyre taking on Bobby Lashley. I just don't think that, very simply, that they're going to make Drew McIntyre, who they were building up to win this very belt at WrestleMania, I don't see them taking it away from him yet. So it's as simple as that, why I think he will retain the belt. Bobby Lashley, they're obviously giving him a push, and they haven't given him a top title yet since he returned to the company a year or so ago. I don't think that's happening yet, though. While they're giving him a push as a strong heel character, a bad guy, and who knows, he might be still in the running for this belt in the coming months, but nope, not going to happen tonight as far as I'm concerned. Drew McIntyre will retain his WWE Championship belt. And now for the final match of the night, which is strangely billed as the greatest wrestling match ever, is between Edge and Randy Orton. I take exception to a match being billed like that, especially when I've been in attendance for what I regard as possibly the greatest wrestling match of all time, when The Rock faced Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 18, which was, just about any wrestler, when you read articles and watch interviews, they name check that as one of the greatest matches ever. And there's so many other great ones also that are high on that list. I'm biased, of course, as I was there, but it was also so impactful because not only did it feature two of the undisputed greatest wrestlers and performers of all time in this company, but it also, the result of the reaction from the crowd that I was a part of, changed the whole trajectory of the storyline, which is extremely rare that in one fell swoop of a match, the company will then reconfigure the storyline because of that. To remind everybody, Hogan came into that match as a heel, but because of our overwhelming positive reaction to him, the company couldn't help but, following his loss to Rock that night, they turned him back into a babyface, popular good guy character, and they gave him the belt the next month, defeating Triple H, who had just won it that same night at WrestleMania. So, you know what? That match was so big, and it was also aided by the amazing crowd response. If you ever watch it on YouTube or some other streaming site, you'll see so many people comment about what an incredible audience it was. The crowd reaction is electrifying. The Rock himself went on record saying that the audience I was a part of was the greatest audience he ever performed in front of in his career. So that's humongous praise. I'm so proud, and I feel fortunate that I was a part of that event and that match. So back to tonight's match as the greatest wrestling match ever. I'll go out and say this: during this pandemic time when there are no audiences, well, the WWE has created a makeshift audience out of their own performers on NXT and people in their training center and whatnot, which to me I don't like, because it's a very disingenuous reaction that all these people are. It's like they feel the pressure, they have to react strongly to every single performer out there. So there's something that feels very disingenuous about that. It doesn't seem natural. I don't like it. I don't like that they're doing this during a pandemic, and for the first part, and they shouldn't, I think, also then try and create the illusion of an audience by sticking these I don't know, I guess just pawns like in there and cheering the exact way that the company wants them to. That's so phony, and it's so against everything that wrestling audiences are, what they're comprised of, which is the ability to go and cheer and boo for whoever you like, and those reactions help generate the storylines that follow. So never during an audience-less time or an era like this in wrestling will we ever see a match which will be considered the greatest ever, in my opinion. So it's very silly and stupid gimmick. It's a stupid gimmick that they're having this. But that to me doesn't take anything away from these two performers. Edge and Randy Orton are two of my absolute favorite wrestlers ever. I really like both of them a lot. They both have won almost every belt you can win. Two, like I said at the start of my podcast, two bona fide Hall of Famers. Edge already is a Hall of Famer, and Randy Orton, without question, will be. So I like these two guys a lot, and I'm hoping that it'll be a really good wrestling match. But to just come out ahead of time and declare it, bill it as the greatest wrestling match ever, is just preposterous. These two, of course, fought in a last man standing match at WrestleMania a couple months ago, and Edge was the victor there. Even though I probably, in terms of who I personally prefer as a wrestler, I might have to say I like Edge a bit more than Randy Orton. But for the sake of storyline, since Edge won that last man standing match over Randy Orton, I'm leaning towards Randy Orton being given the decision tonight, and he will win the greatest wrestling match ever. Quotations all surrounding that as far as I'm concerned. So Randy Orton, I think, will be the victor in this match tonight, hopefully setting up a third rubber match. Though when you're already billing this as greatest wrestling match ever, WWE, I don't know if actually a third match will be in the cards, but to me that makes the most sense, considering Edge won cleanly over Randy Orton a few months ago. So my pick for that match is Randy Orton to be victorious in that match. So there you have it, folks. Those are my predictions for the 8 matches scheduled brackets to date by the WWE for this evening's Backlash pay-per-view show. Hopefully it's a good event. I don't think it's a secret that I think that these shows, these television shows and these pay-per-views are very much lacking without an audience. So I'm not expecting this to be one of my favorite pay-per-views ever. Hopefully it's a good, fairly entertaining show that they put on tonight. So there you have it. Those are my 8 predictions. Hopefully it's a decent show. And I want to remind you all, don't forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel below if you enjoyed what you heard. So thanks very much for listening, and see you next time.